we know that every organization has a bureaucracy. But bureaucracy is meant to enhance efficiency, predictability, stability, equality, and effectiveness. It's not for the sake of red tape or for the sake of being flexible or inflexible or impossible, but to maximize effectiveness and efficiency. It is essential that we have bureaucracy in the system, but it's also important that we understand that there are parameters within. 2, hierarchical structure. 3, formal rules and procedures. 4, impersonality, meaning that the decisions are made on a neutral basis, not based on a person. Merit-based selection and career orientation. These parameters raised and the solutions proposed are at the heart of how Northrise will be changed by your leadership to become a recognized global university of the 21st century. The third parameter is a university's transformation. Nayatullah and Gidley produced a compilation of essays of experiences and transformations of universities globally in 2000, still very relevant. They recognize that there have been lots of changes from all over the world. All universities have been refashioned. Our polytechnic became University of Science and Technology. 2 institutions merged to become one, and so on and so on. And there are a lot of other things that also influence their transformation. Economics, political vibes in the community. Oftentimes there's resistance to change. You want to introduce certain qualifications and the community doesn't want it, and so on and so on. So it's important to keep track of the happenings globally. 4th, the University for the 21st century. James Duderstadt published a book also. He's a former university president at Michigan. And he was propagating that the universities are there to preserve intellectualism, the cultures and the values of civilization. But he also says that not only will social and technical change be a challenge to a university, it will be the watchword for years. And with change will come unprecedented opportunities for those who have vision, the wisdom and the courage to lead in the 21st century. So these solutions proffered, or the hypothesis proffered, are at the heart of how leadership at Northrise will steer the institution to become regionally and globally recognized as a relevant university. And 5thly, in his seminal book of 2009, Jamil Salmi, most of you may know him, is the authoritative figure globally on the theory of world-class universities. And in 2017, we spent some time with him at our university. And we learned lessons from that. And he's saying that there are multiple challenges and costs and risks associated with the approaches how to become a university of world-class universities. He offers options and alternative perspectives on how nations can develop the most effective and relevant tertiary education system to meet the specific standards. Okay, first we have to understand the terminology world-class university, which is a standard reference for each university desiring prestige and rewards. To be recognized as a world-class university means instant global presence, with attractiveness for faculty, scholars, staff, and students. It means achieving more with international networks and funding and many other opportunities. He characterizes the pillars of the main pillars of world-class universities as being: 1, high concentration of talent; 2, abundant sustainable resources; 3, favorable governance; 4, world-class research output; 5, internationalization; and 6, impact and reputation. The framework, benchmarks, and solutions proposed should be at the heart of how Northrise will be changed by your leadership to become a recognized and global university of the 21st century. In conclusion, we know that challenges to problem solvers like Dr. Moewa are often the opportunities to offer breakthroughs in times of uncertainty, upheaval, and downturns. I leave it to Northrise leadership to challenge the status quo and make us believe in what it can and shall do to make Zambia a thriving nation, and thus raise its own profile to global significance. Northrise should define its presence in Zambia and beyond in a state of recognition as an excellent university. I think your 10-year plan would take you there, and it is quite impressive, I must say. Just a piece of advice to the Vice Chancellor: because you are a dynamic, ethical, and analytical and methodical leader, you will find goodwill and success all along the way. But when confronted with a difficult challenge or new situation where you have to take a quick decision, do rely on your intuition. Know when to act. Rely on your gut feeling, your second brain. And if you do it right, it is a win. And if you do it in any way, it's a win. But in hindsight, everybody would tell you that you could have done it this way or not that way. But hindsight is always 20/20 vision. So don't let unnecessary self-criticism or regret ruin your day or career. You must learn to embrace the positive lessons learned and appreciate past experiences with better clarity. We are assured of your ability to make Northrise a thriving university in the 21st century, and I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish the Northrise community amazing success in all your endeavors.
I thought we can talk about 21st century, not me. Okay, thank you, Prof, for your kind words to Northrise. I would invite, you don't have to stand, maybe you can sit if it's comfortable for you, just for short interventions from each one of the panelists, and in their own capacity, in their own expertise, they can speak to some of these issues that we want to unpack. And I'll start with Professor Kioko.
I realize I'm the only one who is not a scientist amongst this. And in Kenya, there's something we talk about, a third of the gender. So I'm providing that third to meet the Constitution of Kenya. So I'm happy to be here and to have a moment to say something about quality assurance. In this business model that is coming to the university, one of the questions we ask is, what is really our product? Is it our academic programs, or is it the graduates? And I think that's a question you can ponder in your head. And if we say it is the academic programs, then we are selling the academic programs to the students, and they are our customers. They come to buy our academic programs. And sometimes when you look at it, you see that that is not exactly totally what we do. Because when you're thinking of quality, you're thinking of quality of your products. So the question is, what is our product? Now, if we say that our product are the students, then they are no longer our customers because they are our products. You know, if you think of the industry we put them through a process and then we produce them at the end of the process. And our curriculum becomes our curriculum and co-curricular activities. The learning experiences that we take them through become our processing. And so when we are checking quality, what are we checking? Are we checking the students? Are we checking the programs? Or are we checking both? And that becomes one question that we need to ask in the 21st century when the university is no longer as autonomous as it used to be. We are being told by the industry, by the parents, by people walking on the streets that we are failing in doing the job that we claim to be doing. So our quality is being checked and talked about by many people that some of them may not even know what happens within the university system. I think today one professor said that he was in the business and criticizing the fact that these students were coming out without a lot of practical skills. But then when he entered the university, he realized that so much is happening there that they are processing a lot of the mind so that much of the skills and the experiences can be learned out there. So really, when we are talking about quality in the 21st century, the key question, because some of the school that believes that students are our products, our alumni are our products, and the curriculum is the process through which we take them. So the question we are asking is, when the student is walking out of that gate after graduation, we are asking, how much does she know? And how long will she know it? And I like that second part. How long will she know it? Because rote learning for a GPA sometimes is forgotten even before the graduation, between the months and the graduation. So how much does this person know? How long will they know it? And so when we're thinking of quality within higher education, we are looking at the curriculum because the teaching and learning, which is sharing knowledge and skills with the learners, is our primary business. But we are also looking at the pedagogy, the experiences that we are taking this student through with the curriculum, how we are combining the curriculum and the student in the process. So we are looking at the teaching and learning process. We are also looking at research and innovation, which is creating new knowledge. What is our quality in creating new knowledge? And thirdly, we are looking at how are we applying this knowledge? What impact are we having in the community around us? What value are we adding? And especially for us as a Christian university in Northrise, what value are we adding? What difference is dollar because Northrise exists? So that's the quality. And with the You know, when we're looking at quality, we say, because this curriculum is what we feed to these students for them to be a better product, we need to look at the curriculum. And in the 21st century, with the way the job market is changing very fast, one of the things we need to begin asking ourselves, how often do we review or relook at our curriculum? How often do we change the direction of the number of courses, the nature of courses that we have? Can we still stick to the, I don't know whether here in Zambia it is 4-year cycle of curriculum review, or by that time will some things have come out of business, you know? We had just reviewed our program in one of the institutions where I was teaching on journalism, and all of a sudden photography stopped being a very key thing, because everybody can take photographs with their phones and send even to the news. Actually, some of the things we see on news are amateur photographs that have been taken. So if that course gets out of the program, what are we adding in order to take care of what is happening in the society that these students will need to? So we're thinking of how often do we change this curriculum? Or do we need do we need an online curriculum which is not on the paper? Because the paper will get finished, so that when there is need, we go sit down and make a change of it online, so that we are not having all these many documents that are stored somewhere in the library. Because by the time you finish and check all the dots and T's, the knowledge has changed. And so that is one question that we grapple with in the 21st century quality assurance. The other thing is what every one of us, I think, will talk about this digital transformation and the online learning and AI. And I just wouldn't say that I'm an authority, because I don't think there is an authority yet. People are searching and trying to find out what they are doing. But in terms of quality, if we give our students the assignments that we were given when we were in school, of the same nature, and decide it is authentic because it has been captured this way, and they bring it after 1 month, and it is very well written, better than their spoken English, and we give them grades, and that is the GPA that they are working out with, can we assure that quality? What changes do we need to make in the learning interaction, and particularly in the assessment? Can we still continue assessing, for example, research projects by marking a thesis and deciding that when we mark that PhD thesis, the person has attained 80% of the pass grade, or 90%, and 10% is the oral examination? Do we need to make a change and have the oral examination carry higher weight, because AI can analyze data of a research that was not undertaken and write a report, and the student would just need now to check what are the rules of Northrise in terms of the presentation and present the thesis. So again, we quality assurance, assuring the quality of the grades we are giving, assuring the quality of the statement we are making to the society that, behold, there comes an engineer. We need to think of how have we assessed them to ensure that they actually possess what their grade says. What assessment beyond the grade do we need to add to that? And so we need to think of also redefining quality, given the way stakeholders, and our stakeholders are the parents, the students, and the industry. Given the feedback that we are getting from the stakeholders, how do we begin to define quality? When I finished my undergraduate, I attained first-class honors. That was a great thing, and therefore I got an automatic scholarship. I didn't even need to apply. A letter followed me wherever I went to teach and told me that you've been given a scholarship. Please come and sign the papers and start classes on Monday. That doesn't happen now. So how are we ensuring that we still can assure quality in that? And finally, let me not talk a lot. In the internationalization, for a long time we were calling it globalization of education. Knowing that this product that we're producing is not just going to work in Dola or Lusaka or South Africa, but may stay in Dola and work in Japan, may stay in Dola and work in the US. How do we look at the process that we are taking these students so that when they connect with the jobs in the global market, they are competitive? They do get to understand what happens there and what is quality there and what is integrity there. When we have processed our student, our quality should assure us of knowledge, what they know, skills, what they can do, and values, their integrity, and so on. So quality assurance needs to give us a process of assessing where we are, and then a process of enhancing to move to where we want to be, and a system of gathering evidence that we can assure anybody who comes that we have evidence for this. One of the challenges of processing having our product as the students is that the students are like a living sacrifice. And when I think of a living sacrifice, it's one that can walk away from the altar. You place it there and it can walk away from the altar. And that becomes a challenging situation that really, you know, I know as a teacher, as a professor, when I'm in class, it is my responsibility to make sure that learning takes place, because if learning has not taken place, teaching has failed. But when I'm in class with my student who has his phone, and at the university, I can just use civil language to communicate, to try and motivate. It is, as we think of quality assurance, even of the processes of teaching, we are thinking, what tools, what instruments, what do we need to put together? What do we need to have conversation over and agree happens in the classroom so that actually learning takes place? Because we are not in high school where we'll have a sitter box at the door so that you drop your phone there and pick when you are going. They will decide they won't drop. At least here they are civil. Where I teach, they can decide they won't drop. But what kind of conversation, which is part of quality assurance, do we want to have and say, this is our kind of agreed behavior so that quality learning can take place when we're in the classroom? Thank you.
Teacher at heart. Thank you, Prof. Briefly about the relevance of belonging to university associations as the 21st century. Thank you very much, Rector. Being an academic, this is the only time that I remember by so it's a good chance for me. First, I didn't know that to get to Northrise University, you have to pass through Luancha, but I used the normal route and it took us longer to reach here, but we are here anyway. Oh, so, thank you very much. So, thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and speak on this topic of, I've named it value of belonging to regional and international university networks. We have heard of, first before I do that, it's the first time that I have my wife in the audience when I'm speaking. Except at church, when I was talking about, what was the topic?
Mine's English, I think. So you can imagine I'm a bit nervous. um, but oh, they want to see you at where is she? She's the I was actually surprised that the vice chancellor was saying I'm a mining engineer. He was 10 meters away when we were at Unza. His office was 10 meters away. He didn't know that I'm a metallurgical engineer. Yes. The mining engineer is here. And if we go further, the first time I was made prefect, we were at the same school, Kantanshi in Muflira. This was my first class. Now I was in Form 5, which is grade 12 now, and they were in grade 11, and they were my friends. Now you can imagine controlling friends for noise making and everything. But it was a good experience. So we come a long way. Yeah, so my topic will be value of belonging to regional and international university networks. We have heard of the importance of internationalization for us to be a world-class university, the need for our students to be global students. How do we facilitate that? One of the things is, as an institution or academics to belong to international or regional networks. So the question is, why institutional membership in global networks matters? I'll just do a few points. Maybe later on, when in the dialogue, we can expand on this one. This provides benefits to academics, such as expanding research ecosystem beyond the national systems, because if you belong to regional networks, at least you are exposed to other research ecosystems. It enhances scholarly visibility. I think the Vice Chancellor talked about visibility and citation impact. It also supports access to infrastructure, funding, and collaborations. It also enhances your career progression. I'll give an example, some examples as I go of what I've seen, because of the benefits of belonging to these networks. In the region, we have one of the major higher education networks, the Southern African Regional Universities Association, SARUA, where I belong since June 2024. It's basically a regional research and policy collaboration network. There's also the AAU, as we know, the Commonwealth of Learning, and there are also other examples, international association networks, which some of them are disciplinary based, some of them are just general as institutions, but academics participate in those activities. Out of these networks, research collaboration, there are research collaboration opportunities that creates platforms for thematic research clusters, multi-country consortia. We are even in Zambia, we have some like Association of Computer Scientists, Association of this and that. Joint research supervision of doctoral candidates is a spin-off from such opportunities, and also shared laboratories and databases. It's also a source of funding and grant access. It improves competitiveness, access to consortium funding calls, eligibility for multinational grants, and also partner matchmaking mechanisms a result of belonging to these networks. On publication and scholarly visibility, academic networks enhance dissemination. There will be conference presentation pipelines, special journal issues, editorial board participation, and also peer reviewer databases as a result of belonging to these networks. Generally, global collaboration correlates with high research impact indicators. I remember when I was Vice Chancellor at the University of Zambia, when it came to promotions, we used to get a lot of applications from School of Veterinary Medicine. and School of Medicine. And the reason was School of Veterinary Vet Medicine was collaborating with a lot of universities in Japan. Through that, there was a lot of research and publications. And when you look at the applications, most of it was coming from such groupings which were involved in collaboration with other colleagues from outside the university. So it enhances, the impact, scholarly impact, by I'm emphasizing collaboration, and also through belonging to these networks, collaboration follows. Teaching and curriculum development is also, a result, comes from collaboration. These networks, they will support teaching excellence, for example, joint curricular design, credit transfer frameworks, recognizing each other's credits of students, harmonizing qualifications, and also benchmarking against regional standards. It also enhances professional development in terms of academic career advancement support, and generally studies show that academics in international networks have stronger promotional trajectories, as I mentioned, and I've seen it happening. Students also benefit. Although they are, what was the word, Professor? The students, they are what? They are, they're living something. Yeah. Yeah. But they also benefit. Although they are living sacrifices, but they also benefit from such. It enables students opportunities, mobility, and exchange of schemes. Students are involved. Co-supervised thesis, we have a supervisor from Namibia or from US, so you also get, at least you benefit from their skills, exposure to international research teams, and also participation in cross-border projects. And again, it has been, research has found out that student mobility is linked to improved employability outcomes. So that, as Professor was talking about quality assurance, if you are involved with other supervisors from other universities, your employability capabilities also improves. We are in the digital era, digital knowledge and resource sharing. Networks expand academic resources. You have open education resources, shared digital libraries. Nowadays, I remember when Dr. Muya was coming, when actually Northrise University was being registered. I'm the one who registered it, eh? So I'm also proud that I think this is my third time to be here. Each time I come, there is improvement. And the strategic plan which Professor talked about, I think is being realized. It was like we're starting here, only 4 or 5, I don't know, 3 courses at the beginning. We improved. Engineering was mentioned, but they said, no, this one later. And the School of Engineering now. So, shared resources, important, and that says I'm proud to be here. Digital knowledge also brings about cross-institutional online teaching. These days, you don't need to have a library full of books. You can have samples. The library is digital now. You can even share with the University of Cape Town, with the university in the US, things creating a world-class university, because you will be recognized, you will be known. I can tell you that in SARUA, Northrise University is well known, because the faculty here participate in a lot of our activities. Dr. Muya has been participating a lot in leadership programs, and there are also other staff here. So we know, not only me, I know it, but other my colleagues, they know who Northrise University is. So why active participation matters? Membership alone, as an institution does not generate benefits. Impact depends on faculty engagement as staff. Active scholars attract partnerships. Participation increases institutional reputation. Engaged academics secure more grants and collaborations. Again, empirical studies link international collaboration to higher research productivity. Now, at SARUA, I did get permission, but this is our value proposition. Basically, what we're saying is that at SARUA, Southern African Regional University Association, when you are a member, you have regional visibility. A university in Limpopo will know who Northrise is. Through participation of faculty, you also influence, regional activities. You have access to regional networks and collaboration. Sometimes we have research projects where we have faculty from different universities participating. And usually what we do, at the end of the project, we create what we call community of practice so that you continue still working after the project has gone. So that is our value proposition. We have capacity building and institutional strengthening. I know I'm just giving an example of the DVC. She's been participating actively in most of this. Strategic research and project participation. Economies of scale, which I talked about, where you share resources as universities. And also enhancing impact through engagement. My last slide, so that the Vice Chancellor doesn't. Anyway, there are certain things good things that he took from me. I think there were minimal bad things there. But I'm sure even the good things came from the professor there. So, strategic takeaway for academic staff. Regional and international academic networks function as force multipliers for scholarship. Active participation will enhance, one, research output, teaching innovation, professional reputation, societal impact, which I think Professor talked about. And lastly, engagement transforms institutional membership into measurable academic value. And our products are our graduates. What we do in between is just the input, like any product. If you are making soap, you put in, then you have soap at the end. So our graduates are the products. Now there's a saying in academia that publish or perish, isn't it? Similarly, as an institution, collaborate or perish. If you don't collaborate, no one will know you. You won't know what's happening in the US, in whatever. So there's also a similar, saying for institutions, collaborate or perish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Simukanga. And my apologies. Mining engineers think it's everything. I know they are engineers, mining engineers, geologists, metallurgists, and name them. I'll invite Mr. Malango to give us also his short intervention on the role of industry, making sure that the universities deliver the competences, the adaptiveness, the knowledge that graduates need to make impact in society.
I'm sitting there, I don't hear this microphone.
No, you said.
Yes, you hear it. Okay. Good afternoon. It's, first of all, my friend, my brother, Lamek Mwewa, Dr. Mwewa. And the leadership of this university, I must say, I'm very honored to be here and to be invited, actually, to come and share my views here. I'm a Zambian, residing in Namibia. Phew, how many years now? 30 years, I think. My brother was with me and his dear wife and the family for 19 years. Then he decided to come back home and he left us alone. My wife is over there. My wife and Mrs. Our Namibia is now our home as well. But when you think of 30 years, it looks a long time. But when I reflect, it looks like, and in your case, and I would like you to remember this. This is a long journey in your professional career, and you should be able to remember that 30 years ago, this is what I did, and this is how I've come. And having said that, let me also mention that here my childhood friend, Professor Simukanga, I'm actually sandwiched here between the professors. You know, I'm the only one who's not an academic, because I'm coming from industry, and from industry you find engineers, but you find very few professors. So with him, he mentioned that we've come a long way. If I can tell you specifically from as way back as 1974 when we first met. Now, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you were, you know, many of you as students were not born. I've created family. Professor Tjama Tjivikua and his dear wife. This is a family who've been together a long, and what I'm going to tell you is all evolving around him, actually, because that's where the classic example of the intervention of the private sector with the university, and that's a classic example that I want to give. And actually, when I saw the program, that the Prof here is going to be on this panel, because I worked with him, telling you more about it. Him and his dear wife, we are actually neighbors in the same street, only or something. So when I came here, it was a pleasure. I said, I haven't seen you for a long time, and yet we are neighbors, but we can meet here. So I'm happy to be here, and also a long time when Zambians, called Zambians in diaspora, but some of us, maybe the proximity to home where we come from is here. So you find here so often, 5 times in a year. My wife has come to join me. She's coming from Lusaka. Lusaka and I feel nothing. Every day makes no difference. So it's indeed a pleasure to be here back home. And every time I saw this, when you say Northrise University, I couldn't quite, because when I'm in town here, I stay here at Prof. So I'm very familiar. In dollars, we were here, you know, this is Copperbelt. And so I realized also it's just nearby here, because I use this road quite often, and I'm very happy to see. It's a beautiful university. It's the first time I've made a turn to come in here, but I love it right from the beginning. I love it. So yes. This 12:30, I left 5 o'clock home, and but I'm glad, you know, because I only had 1 hour connection. I was scared I was going to miss the connecting flight, but I'm here. So I'm going to address the issue of the private sector, private sector and the universities. Obviously, a university of the 21st century, as the theme goes here. There's got to be, there must be relevance. Why do you exist? To produce a product. Professor Kioko, you talked of a product. Professor Simukanga talked of a product. You are going to be product, but products to do what in society? In society, it's not just getting a degree. You must also have a feel that when you get to in society, you make a change. You must have a good feeling up here that actually you are contributing something positive to society. I'm now retiring, and I'm joining the retirees, Professor Simukanga here and Professor Tjama Tjivikua. And I must tell you, I can confess here, I'm a proud retiree. I think I've the change. I've contributed, and I would like all of you here, when you graduate, you should say in the faculty, in where you were trained, you are actually changing society. There must be that. Otherwise, why do you exist? When you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, why do you exist? When myself, at my age and at our level, me and my classmate, my schoolmate here, we always ask ourselves, why are we still alive when many of us are not around? There must be a purpose. And therefore, we must utilize that time while we are still alive to do good to a fellow human being, to do good to society, and make a change in people's lives. Now, back to the theme. The university, you are producing products, but the products are going to, it's a target audience, there's a target sector, there's a target sector of society. I'm giving you an experience from my sector as a mining industry, and it's no wonder I took mining engineering and he took metallurgy, because we grew up on the copper belt in Mufulira. So we're influenced by that. And we've seen it all. But now, when you look at the industries there, the products are being produced. They must be relevant. They must be industry. They must be fit for purpose. Professor Kioko, you talked of when you talked of quality in the private sector, especially in mining. When we recruit, when we get new graduates, and they are struggling, and they seem to even to be lost on basics. There's a popular phrase, we say they are half-baked. You may have heard. And I wouldn't like one of you to be told you are a half-baked graduate. No, you've attained the skills, acquired the knowledge, and you should be able to go out there and actually deliver. But what is our role ourselves for you to, as the university, to deliver on your mandate and its cooperation? And I think that cooperation is what unfortunately I'm seeing missing in quite a number of universities. I think we've done it the best to the best of my ability as a CEO of the Chamber of Mines, and I've been heading that institution for 20 years. I think we've done well. We could do better, but we've done well. When I compare ourselves with other jurisdictions in Africa, it's different. We need that strong collaboration between the private sector and the institutions themselves. What transpired in Namibia, in the case I wanted to give you as an example, and I'm glad Professor Tjivikua is here, is that the polytechnic you had, there was no, well, look, Namibia got independence in 1990. Zambia has been independent since 1964, with the Zambia's, one of the first universities in the SADC region. We did not have, we are a mining economy, just like in Zambia, that's Namibia. You need skills in mining, in all spheres. And it was felt that I think we need to actually invest, our higher institutions of learning need to actually establish mining, engineering, metallurgical mining and metallurgy departments, so that we are able to actually deliver. But then those skills should be fit for purpose to the mining industry in Namibia, and this is where I came in. So there was, I think, really, and hats off. You are a pioneer in that. You came up with this vision. Can we participate with the industry through the chamber and try to establish the mining and mineral processing and other related subjects? And it's something that we welcomed. And it is it's a concept, a project, an idea which was conceptualized. And then in the whole thing from the beginning, I'm proud as CEO of the Chamber of Mines of Namibia that we were part of the development of the curriculum in the first place, because we are interested. We want to determine the quality that we want. So we got involved in the curriculum development. I don't see many industries doing that. We did that. And not only that, then of course the department was created. Then of course NAS, I myself personally, due to my position at the institution which I'm heading, to the governing council of, and later was at one time for years I was the vice chairperson of that council. He used to tell me that now you are my boss, I'm reporting to you, and I say, it's teamwork. We've got to make things happen. But to cut the long story short, that department was established, and not only that, that was not enough. There is an advisory board that was an advisory board. Most of the MDs and the CEO of mining companies in Namibia, they are members, and the chairperson and myself since inception. Because of that, us wanting to make sure that we drive the narrative to get the best which is fit for purpose as products. Then in terms of making sure that really you deliver again on your mandate is a couple of things. Number one, obviously we want, when you graduate, you should get a job. You don't graduate to sit at home or to roam the streets. That makes us very sad. And this is where, as a chamber and as an industry in Namibia, we actually follow it up. How many graduates, every time after graduation, we follow it up. How many graduates are still at home? We are worried. If they're at home, what is wrong? What has gone wrong? Because they should be absorbed. Okay? And so that's one. And then secondly, in the process, you need to be exposed to the industry. Internships is very important. We coordinate that. And that's why we are on the advisory. So when the university says we need so many to go, on job attachments, we provide that. And in fact, at the board, we're even talking of even lecturers. When lecturers come, we are recruiting lecturers from all over the world. That is very good, cross-pollination of ideas. But these are lecturers, when they come, they are not familiar with the mining industry. We are saying, we as the Chamber of Mines, we actually ready to take them on conducted tours, and even, sorry, I can see you're looking at the time. I'll be done very shortly. So we want to provide internships as well to the professors, so that they just induct them into our industry. And lastly, but not the least, is to make sure that the research, because now when you are just not just a university, you are at the same time a research institution. The research must be relevant, and when it is relevant, the private sector is going to throw money on you. The private sector is not Father Christmas, so you can't go just to anybody and say, by the way, we need, there's a project, we need so many millions to undertake that. They must have a feel of what is in there for them. There must be, and then I guess for us as a mining industry, we are very sensitive to costs, because we are price takers. We don't determine the price at which we sell the minerals. So the only thing that we can determine is the cost. So when you've got a research topic which is going to add to the efficiencies of our operations, the MDs will throw all the money on you. So really, and in the process of determining a research, I think that's my last, in the process of determining a research topic, I would encourage that really you engage that sector for which the students are actually targeted to go, because it's no good that as academics, you assist the students to come up with research topics, but they've got no relevance to the industry. So I discourage that. Just a few weeks ago, I got a phone call from some young fellow, and he was telling me how he will can I assist him to get data from the Namibian mining industry. He sent me his proposal, and I'm like, how did you even arrive at that proposal? Because that proposal had no value. You'll be more of a nuisance to the MDs, whereas if it adds value, they'll even throw all the money on you, even finance that. So that's the tips, and so he's now changed the research, panel beat it a bit. So these are things that is very important. Lastly, but not the least, from you, what is it that we're expecting? we are expecting as an institution, the institution should be of high standards, ethics, and then we where the good governance is. It depresses us when we hear it's an institution we are collaborating with, for instance, and then it's an institution which gets rocked with allegations of corruption, scandals. No, we don't want that. It must be high governance. Then we continue to pour money into that, and then you continue then as an institution, you are pouring out the graduates to us, and then you are seeing that indeed the graduates, the products, they are actually making a dent in society, helping our countries to grow and take the socio-economic development ahead. I think these are the points I wanted to raise, but in case you've got many other questions, please, I'm here. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Well, we can sit a whole day, but I want to open questions from the floor. Questions from the floor? I'm very safe. Don't ask me questions. Ask them. Any questions?
First of all, thank you very much for all of those opening remarks. I was curious if any of you would be willing to speak a little bit more in depth about maybe what is different today than even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, about what a university needs to look like in an age of rapid change and isolation and all the things that have really accelerated and gotten harder in the last 10 years, if that's possible.
Good afternoon. My question is, I think, directed at Professor Kioko. And I'm relating this to your presentation from yesterday as well, even as what you mentioned earlier on. And I think my question is kind of bordering in between quality assurance and quality control, because I think of the direction of the question itself, because of what you mentioned earlier. So when I look at us as an institution, based on what you mentioned, or the question you rather phrased, what is our product? Made me think, like, are we looking at programs? And then I'm remembering our recruitment and admissions team. But then I'm looking at the graduates that we send into the industry. And now I was thinking, like, so in relation to what you mentioned yesterday, it just made me think, like, maybe from your experience, what are some of the best practices in measuring the learning outcomes of these graduates that we send out into the industry? Because I think something that you mentioned that was critical, like, we shouldn't just focus on the GPA, because I think you even alluded to it in your earlier remarks. It's easy for some students to get those A's and B's, and because lecturers again would differ. But then, if we are looking at the quality of what we are doing as an institution, what would be the best practices of measuring that learning outcome as an institution?
Yes.
My question goes to the chairperson for the Chamber of Mines. Thank you. My little bit of concern is that we're talking about sending the product into the field, and that the product should match the specifications. In this context, I take it that the product is the student that we're sending away from our universities. But there seems to me to be a mismatch between what is happening in the industry and what the student might be learning, or the product that we're sending out there was exposed to while in school. Because if that were not the case, seemingly we don't seem to be managing our own affairs when it comes to the mining sector. We seem to be depending on investment from outside to come and run our own mines. So I wonder what in that case could be the problem. Thank you.
All right, I think we'll take these three questions, starting with the first question is this wrapping in everything that's happening in the world. How do we position ourselves? The second question has to do with how do we issue of quality, which was directed to Professor Kioko, and the last one is this mismatch between our students when they leave and what their expectation in the industry. So I'll throw this to the panelists. The two of them are very direct. Yeah, that's fine.
It's working, eh? Oh, great. Sounds like you're in a radio station or something. Yeah, I think I'll start with the one that talks about the universities today compared with how the universities were 10 years ago. You know, what are the changes? We know that we're in the digital world, so there's a lot of digital transformation. AI has come in, and AI will be with us. It won't go anywhere. As universities now, we need to look at how do we use these tools in our teaching and learning. Checking, what is that tool that is used when you're checking whether it's student? Yeah, there are all sorts of. I think we should look at how should we teach our students to use AI tools in the teaching and learning, not chasing plagiarism, you know. It should be how are they using it, and because we are slowly, if we're not careful, critical thinking will lose it. We'll just be getting things and that's it. We can't analyze things. I use GPT a lot. And this is what I do. If I'm writing a letter to you, I'll write it. Then I ask, can you, ChatGPT, can you now rewrite this? It will rewrite to ask me, do you want to be in a legal format or whatever? But it's using my text, not just picking from there. So we are challenged as lecturers, one. First of all, you know, these days when you're a lecturer, you go in class. These students have already read. They're ahead of you. I think times have gone when we used to have, in my days, we have this professor with a blue folder, which he made in 1970 something. He comes with it every day, and he's like the one with the knowledge. That time is gone. So even as lecturers, we also need to, if we don't Google, we need to Google. There are a lot of new stuff coming up in our field, so we also need to read because the students are ahead of us. So those are the things that are happening, and we need to see how we can use these new tools in our teaching and learning. I think I'll stop for that for now.
Okay. Professor, thank you for that.
So the question was the best practices of measuring the quality of our products, who are our graduates. And it made me remember my tour of the engineering building, and I was shown a machine that measures the quality of metal, I don't know, the strength of metal, so that you put it there and it tells you the strength. And I know I had a session yesterday with the members of management, and I say that GPA is not reliable. And the reason is that the GPA is made up of coursework, which depending on how it was given, you may not be sure that it's the student who did exactly what they did. There is group work, where there are also joyriders, and then there is our varied way of grading, where a C in one professor's class could be a B+ in another professor's class. So those are the things that make the GPA not reliable. However, in terms of quality assurance, you can work on making that GPA reliable. You can make it, you can work on make it as close as possible to show the skills and knowledge and skills that the students have related to what the career in that program demands. Now, you do that if you have clear learning outcomes at the beginning. Then you have aligned your learning experiences to those learning outcomes. And then you've aligned the examination tasks. Every task you can say this one is measuring number 1. This one is measuring number 2. And especially if you have a very effective internal question moderation process, which will ascertain that these exam tasks are related to the knowledge and skills that the learner is supposed to have. So there's a way you can make your GPA transparent in terms of those skills. However, quality assurance also involves measuring knowledge and skills beyond the grade, and that is called program assessment. And when you're doing program assessment, okay, program review involves many other things, including assessing the learning outcomes. So program assessment is when you are looking at how are we achieving the learning outcomes. And you do that by getting samples of students' written work and making observations or doing simulations of the learning behaviors when they are in their final year. Not for grading, but to just find out, these are our statements of purpose. Do the students have it? So many institutions, in the year when they are doing program review, that is when they revisit the program learning outcomes. But unfortunately, that is not effective, because if there are 6 of them, you are looking at all these things at the same time. One program that is usually good is that if every year you decide, this year we want to find out whether our graduates, if it's nurses, whether our graduates can, I don't know, what do they do, can do injection properly. And these are the simulations we can do, and that one is learning outcome 1. Then you store that information. Then the following year, you assess another 2. You store that information. Then when you're doing program review, you bring all this data and you are saying, how effective is our curriculum? So assessment beyond the grade is possible, and it actually happens in the institution I work for is accredited by the Western Association of Senior Schools and Colleges in America, and all the institutions that are accredited by that in California and that region must do program assessment separately and then combine it with program review. So it does happen, and there are models available on how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. The mismatch between and the interest. No.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's what you are talking about. No, leave it. No, very valid question. Interesting question. Indeed, in fact, Zambia has no shortage of skills in mining. I think that I can declare. I personally clocked 10 years of my working life right here. I was at number 1 shaft in Chirawombwe. Those days, Konkola. Konkola division of ZCCM. Everything happens here, and skills were developed, huge investments. So you've got Zambians that can run mines. We know it all. That's no doubt about that. I went to Namibia because Namibia was just after independence, struggling, and basically I took the needed that experience there, and that's why I've done so much there, basically emulating what we've done here. But Zambia has no shortage of skills. Now the mismatch is, if we've got Zambians that are really, so many of them, competent, they've got all the skills, why is it that we are getting investors from somewhere else? Why don't we have Zambians owning mines and running mines? That is a debate that is running through the whole continent. We've got the same debate in Namibia, the issue of ownership. So there it is different. When you talk of ownership, then you are talking of you becoming an investor. It's different from you, when you graduate here, you get into the job market. Maybe this also answers that question. 10 years ago, in my time, at my stream and Professor Simukanga here, our parents, their main emphasis, go to school and get a job, and you'll have a good life. That is, forget about that. That's not today. All my children, our children, we tell them, guys, yeah, you go to school, but you go to school, you get a job only to be exposed in the field that you've studied. Get some experience, but be business-minded. Get into business and start running a business on the side in the field that you've studied. Our own daughter, she's now graduating. She's here at Ndola Copperbelt University. She's done dental therapy. She's now graduating. And we emphasize you should get into business. Now she gets into all these, works in all these dental clinics and all that. And indeed, now she's realizing her dream of opening her own practice. That should be the way. So what does that mean? It means all of you, as you get the skills, as you prepare yourselves towards graduation, I think two things here. There must be a sense of business, being business-minded. Not that you should be there to work until you retire like me and him, no. I think there must be business-mindedness. And then secondly, you should acquire financial literacy. That's very, very important. You cannot just rely on all these auditors and all that. You should be able to read an income statement and understand what it is saying. So really, the mismatch is because the graduates are not investors. And by the way, investors themselves, you find that they have got no idea in that particular. Investors that are in mining, who have opened all these big mines, they themselves are not what me and Professor Simukanga are. They're just business people, and that's it. The only Zambian that has really managed to open a mine is Dr. Sixtus Mulenga. You have heard of that. He's in Manganese, and he's my brother. I look up to him. He was my mentor when I was at Konkola, where I met him for the first time. He's a geologist, and he's now in Manganese. So that's why that mismatch is there. We should. So I'm encouraging, let's close that gap by all of us, not just as graduates only looking for a job, but we should be able to create jobs for ourselves and become entrepreneurs. That way we grow the economy, because you are going to create jobs for others and grow the economy. Thank you.
In the interest of time, unless there is a burning question, but in the interest of time, I would like us to, Professor Tjivikua, you have something you want to say about these three questions?
Well, I think much has been covered, but I'm not so sure whether he got
His question. Answer from
he got
Derek.
the answers he wanted. Are you satisfied with because your question was specifically on the transformations in African universities, for instance, how and why they...
Yeah, I thought conversation about the differences in career preparedness addressed it a bit, which I thought was helpful, and ultimately the state of change that we're experiencing would require a lot more conversation to
Yeah,
wrap our heads around.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of how we do the transformation. So there was a university in Namibia, so a traditional university, and then there was a what they call a technicon. In South Africa also had the same kind of framework. These are like technical colleges, also doing business, human resources, but then they had emphasis on engineering, technology, and so on. So in Namibia, there was just that one institution, and it was the mother body for everything. So these other things, the technical things, were not really attended to well. So we saw the need to create a technological university, first as polytechnic and then transform to university. In Africa, Australia, New Zealand, UK, the polytechnics were disappearing. So the question was, okay, if you now take on this technicon and transform into polytechnic, what happens tomorrow? Because then you'll be left alone and you cannot associate with universities because they're looking down at you. So we formed this polytechnic with the vision to create a university of science and technology. That was my answer to the interview panel in 1995 when they interviewed me on the phone for 30 minutes. I said I would transform the institution to a very new concept at that time. But then in the 90s, the polytechnics disappeared in the UK. They were disappearing in New Zealand, the British formations. So the question is, what becomes of this institution? You are polytechnic, and in South Africa there are technicons becoming universities of technology in Kenya and Ghana and so on. So we'll be left alone standing. And then, are you in the networks field? Are you on par still in terms of you can produce high quality graduates, you can produce good products, but then you are an island unto yourself. So that's why the transformations of polytechnics happened to be the big debate in the 90s and 2000s. And now there are no polytechnics anymore, nearly. And then many of them have become universities. But the focus is different. So we said, when people were arguing that you are duplicating what the other institution is doing because it's also a university, I said, no, my brand is different. Because they are theoretical in practice, we are practical in practice. So we integrated the learning in the classroom. We integrated the learning in the workplace. So we had to do simulations, we had to do practical projects, and then we took the students to the market and say, before you graduate, you must work for at least a semester in the market, which has become sort of like now the standard, because everybody is saying, yeah, your graduates are so good, everybody was looking at, why always present in polytechnic? It's because we did right. And then we had extensive networks in Europe, especially the German-speaking countries have had the Hochschule and University of Applied Sciences. They were very good partners for us because with the exchanges and curriculum referencing and all that, it drove that development. So we created a brand that is wanted in the market. Not that philosophy at the university is not important, but the question is what is happening to philosophy nowadays, even at Harvard. What is happening to the humanities all over the globe? They are really facing a difficult challenge of absorption in the market. So those are some of the drivers of change in the landscape.
Professor Simukanga was itching to respond.
No, I think it's the question that was raised. and on the mismatch, what is happening in industry and what students are learning. I thought I should maybe say something about that. When we were lecturers in the 1990s, 1990, that's when I finished my PhD. When we sent students to the mining industry, we used to come and visit them, talk to the industrial supervisors and so forth. And sometimes we'd also come, spend 1 month or so, check what new technologies industries is implementing or putting in place, so that when you go back to the lecture room, it's not only the textbook technology, you also bring in what is happening in industry. So even our staff, if the engineers here, whatever, we should endeavor to visit the respective industries, whether it's pharmaceutical or whatever, check what is happening there. When you come back, update your notes. Of course, there is now, internet and whatever, but at least so that when students go there, they're not lost.
They're not lost.
They'll find the same things that you have taught them. They'll find them. But this is my experience. Third year, I was at Luansha Smelter vacation employment, and in the third year, all you do is you follow the foreman wherever he's going. Then at the end of 2 months, you write a report. Flow, what happens here, blah, blah, blah. Fourth year, they give me a project. Or now come and work specifically on this. Same place, Luansha Smelter. I come, spend 3 months. End of the 5th year, I write my project, A. Finish, distinction. Posted, Luansha Smelter. So now I knew the plant and I knew everything. Yeah. Now this is what happened. I arrived there, and I'm trying to talk about the narrative of saying, your graduates are half-baked and whatever. I arrived, the same superintendent I've seen for the past 2 years. Then he tells me, okay, you have come, welcome back. For now, you won't be useful to us. You won't be useful after 2 years. Now imagine you are, a young graduate, the product has come out and eager to work, and distorted. Not now. I was frustrated. But then they put me into a program, graduate development. You 6 months there, 6 months there. You do shifts. You work like an operator. You wear all those things they wear at night, lashing and whatever. Spent 2 years doing that. Then at the end of the 2 years, then they tell me, okay, now you'll be responsible for this section as a shift metallurgist. Yeah. We're looking at the technology or whatever. Then I thought backwards, what did this guy tell me? Then I realized that, okay, he was right. Maybe it's the language that he used, which was not good. Because now I could supervise these guys. I knew all the shortcuts. I could, if they tell me, I would say, no, this is not the way, because I know what they do. So I think sometimes it's when I hear half-baked things and I reflect, I think it's just a language. Because you don't expect a graduate to know all the things that I saw in those 2 years, straight from classroom. Impossible. So you expect, yes, they have the academic knowledge. You put them in industry, now they start putting, things together. Oh, this is this. For example, in theory, you say, okay, when you are processing copper, I will just give you some, in simple terms. You are removing sulfur from copper so that the sulfur comes out, so that copper remains. There's that equation. So you know. The operator, when you're putting air, there's that flame that comes out. The flame will start changing from yellow to blue. They will know, okay, all the sulfur is now out. So now you start relating that theory to the practice. And they don't expect you, immediately you graduate, to know those things. So, potential graduates, don't get frustrated. Go there and learn, as my friend was saying. open mind, learn. You will be doing donkey work, but it's part of learning.
Correct.
Thank you.
I think we can spend the rest of the time just debating on these issues. But I think, colleagues, you've heard from yourself, from industry experts, from those that have run universities, those that have been involved in industry. And I thought that this would be important for us as we go forward, especially with Northrise being a young university and just navigating ourselves with so much that is happening in the world and trying to navigate where can we be known as a university. Remember, we have a mandate, transforming the country one student at a time. And that is a very big call. And so I thought that we could spend time discussing this so that as we go back to our workstations, we start internalizing as a Christian university with the mandate that we have of stewardship. What is it that we need to start doing in class, in our workstation, on our workstations as managers? What is it that we should focus on to navigate ourselves through this ever-changing, rapid-changing world, which sometimes just disrupts everything that we do? COVID came, disrupted everything that we were doing. How do we navigate ourselves as universities? And there will be something else that disrupt us. But we have one comfort, and we have something that we rely on that never changes, and that's our God. Our goal, and this is what I want to leave us with, is that with all these things that happen, must I apply them into context to make sure that we don't lose focus on what we are actually called to do as a university. All of us. As academics, I know that it's very difficult to change academics. It's like changing a cemetery. Yeah, the inhabitants don't participate. So I think we have a lot of things that we have to do, and colleagues, I love this, and I think this is not the first time we're going to have this kind of engagement. The whole idea is to probe us, to make us start thinking, what is it that we'll be doing? It's different to come to work every day and get tired, but it's one thing to come to work with a purpose. What is it that I'm going to do today that will contribute to this transformation agenda that we have? And so thank you very much, the panel that is here. Thank you for your intervention, and I'm so thankful that you came. I know that it's hectic, but I think you must get used to this thing of being hectic, because Northrise is hectic. We pride ourselves of being excellent at what is good. And so all good things that happen in the world, we want to be part of that, but with a single mandate of transforming nations, making impact, so that our graduates, our products, when they go out there, they will be sought after. We have fantastic testimonials from industry that has employed our graduates, and we want to add more and more on that. And so thank you very much for giving us some of the thoughts that we can navigate ourselves through. I would ask, where is the chaplain? Yes, I'll ask you that you can close for us in prayer, and then we can dismiss. Yes, please, you can stand.
Shall we pray? We thank you this afternoon, our Heavenly Father, for the wonderful time that we had learning, listening, processing, analyzing. We can testify that you have moved us from where we were to another level. Thank you, Lord, for our guests who came traveled long distances to just come and interact with us, impact our lives. We pray your blessing upon their lives, and we pray that this is not the last time that they are here, but simply the beginning of many times. We thank you, Lord, for each one of us. Use us to the glory of your name. And Father, we pray that you dismiss us with your blessing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen. So we are all free to go.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.